I will now share my screen and we will pull up the presentation. Can you see it in the room? Excellent, thank you. So on this slide is the funding opportunity website as well as our email address. That information is also on the handout that you have in the room. And I have posted it as a comment in the Zoom link also. It will be available later to you through those places. Oh, a little technical difficulty. There we go. So this evening, we're going to talk a little bit about Oregon Water Resource Department, the grant programs that we have available to you and in your community. We're going to talk about the Harney Domestic Well Fund goal and the funds that are available, the grant process, eligible costs, who's eligible to apply, and how to apply for those funds. I'm going to give some tips and tricks on applying, and we'll talk about what happens if you're approved for a grant and then answer any questions that you may have that are related to the overall program. If you have a specific question, I do encourage you to write it down on the note card or hang on to it. I'll have some time at the end that will answer questions. And then if you have something that's specific about your well or an application that you would like to submit and you have some questions about that, I would be happy to get in contact with you. So please, there's a sign-in sheet going around in the room. And if you are online, I'm happy to answer those questions. Please email me and we'll get in contact with you. So Oregon Water Resources Department's mission includes directly addressing Oregon's water supply needs. And the Oregon legislature provided funding for and guidance to OWRD to develop the Harney Domestic Well Remediation Fund that we're going to be talking about this evening. My slides are transitioning a little slowly this evening. I apologize for that. So just to orient you a little bit to who we are, at OWRD, the section that manages grants is our Planning, Collaboration, and Investment section. This section includes community engagement staff like Alexandria, complex basin coordinators, technical assistant staff, and our grants team. As part of our strategic investments work, we manage several funding opportunities. Three of the most well-known and our olding funding opportunities provide funds for place-based planning, preparing for water infrastructure projects through feasibility studies, and implementation funding through water project grants and loans. These are listed on the top of the slide, and they're primarily focused to organizations and tend to be larger projects. We've recently begun receiving funding and are adding to our portfolio with grants geared more towards individual landowners or individuals. And these include the statewide Well Abandonment Repair and Replacement Fund and the Harney Domestic Well Remediation Fund. A separate water measurement cost share program will be transitioning to the grants team also. And another funding opportunity outside of the grants team that will be available in Harney County later this year will be a Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, commonly known as CREP. CREP will provide funds to landowners in exchange for removing environmentally sensitive land from agricultural production. So keep an eye out for additional information in the future if that's something you're interested in. Tonight, we're here to talk about the Harney Domestic Well Remediation Fund. So the goal of the fund is to help landowners with the cost to repair or replace and abandon a dry or severely declining household well that's not able to sustain your household due to declining groundwater levels in the greater Harney Valley area of groundwater concern. That area is on the slide. It is the area within the pink boundary that's shaded pink. The area in brown is an area of highest groundwater declines, and funding will be prioritized to those areas. We'll talk about how the prioritization will work in just a few minutes. So we have $500,000 total available, and with that, we anticipate being able to assist with about 35 to 40 wells. The grant provides funding for a portion of the work, and a maximum grant would be $13,500. So if you are repairing your well, you would be eligible up to $10,000 and for 75% of the cost. So you would be responsible for 25% of the cost up to the 10,000 and then any additional costs. For replacement, you also would be eligible for up to $10,000 in funding at 75% of the cost, and then above that amount, any additional cost. For abandonment, which is required generally if you are replacing your well, we can cover 100% of the costs up to $3,500. So we could cover all of the costs up to that amount, and you would be responsible for anything over the $3,500. So your maximum grant that is available is $13,500. That would be if you were replacing your well and received the $10,000, and then also abandoning the well and receive the additional $3,500. Cost matching is required, and the cost of the well repair or replacement and abandonment is likely greater than the maximum amount of the grant. So there will be out-of-pocket costs for landowners who use this program. As an overview this evening, we'll talk about the process for a grant, including the award, the application, the work, and the reimbursement phases. So during the application phase, an applicant will prepare their application and mail them to OWRD's Salem office. Applications will be reviewed and ranked based on priority levels. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. And ODFW or OWRD staff will complete a pre-award inspection. During the award phase, applicants that are selected for funding will be notified by OWRD grant staff and will enter into a grant agreement or a contract with you. During the work phase, the landowner will have the work completed, make payment to the well driller and other contractors, and will contact OWRD grant staff once the work has been completed. You'll have plenty of time to complete the work, and we usually give at least a year when we're offering grants. Then during the reimbursement phase, grant staff will verify that your documentation has been submitted about the well drilling. That's a well report that we'll review, and will request a post-inspection by an OWRD inspector. That inspector will complete their inspection, verify that the well meets construction standards, and then let the grant staff know. Grant staff will provide the results of the inspection and request that you submit any invoices and a fund request form. Once we verify that your invoices meet the budget and the agreement, then we will send a check to the landowner for reimbursement. So in order to provide funding for work, we include eligible work of repairing or deepening an existing well, or drilling a new well and abandoning your old well. So the costs that we can pay for include the well drilling or deepening, well casings or linings, seal materials, a pump, plumbing, electrical, and trenching to connect the well to your primary residence. Common costs that we don't cover include water testing or filtration, work completed by an unlicensed plumber or electrician, and then well pump house costs. The other items are listed on the screen. So when you're applying for funds to complete the work, we highly recommend that you can use the PDF form that's available out online and that you fill it out electronically. It's available for download on our website, or I can email you a copy. Please email if you need one. The PDF is designed to auto-fill in common answers. So for example, you'll only need to fill in your name once and it will fill it in throughout the rest of the document. If there's anything that needs to be totaled, it will auto-total those for you. So we do recommend that you fill it in online. If you don't have access to a computer and a printer, please reach out for an application package. Alexandria has a few packets with her if you're in the room. And if you're not in the room, please let me know and we are happy to mail you a packet. Again, as a reminder, applications need to be mailed to the address listed. The application will include personally identifying information. We do need your social security number in order to set up a contract with you. And so they will not be accepted at the local ODFW OWRD office or via email. We have provided a guidance for homeowners document that provides a lot of information that would be helpful in filling out your application. It has an FAQ at the end with information that's useful throughout the grant process. So we encourage you to use this document as you're writing your application and then have it as available as a reference as you complete your work. So the application tip, when you're writing out your application, look and see if there are examples in the homeowner's guidance or if we give you an idea of what we'd like to see filled in a section. One of the items that we will ask you to include in your package is a well log or a well report. An example of a well log is on the slide, and you can search for your well log online. Especially older well logs can be difficult to find, and they were often provided at the time the well was drilled and may be found with the paperwork you received when you purchased your property. If you have a well tag attached to your well, that can be helpful in finding your well log. The tag looks like a silver bracelet and it's attached to the well generally, and it's engraved with the letter L and then includes several numbers. So if you're looking for a well tag, that's what they would look like. So let's talk a little bit about eligibility. The landowners are eligible to apply for funding. The well must have served the household needs since April of 2016. And if your work has already been completed, it must have been completed after September 25th, 2021. So the property can be a rental property, but it's the landowner that needs to apply for the funds. So a few examples that we've seen in our well abandonment repair and replacement fund are individuals who own a mobile home that's on a piece of land that's owned by someone else. It's the person who owns the land that needs to apply for the funding, not the person who owns the mobile home. If you live in a multi-generational housing situation, one of the landowners would need to apply for the funding. And if your property is held in a trust, please be sure to include a copy of the trust showing you as either the trustee or the beneficiary with your application as proof of ownership. Not all of Harney County is within the eligible area. We recommend that you use the online mapping tool to determine if you are within the eligible area. If you are on our website and have located the link for the map, it's at the bottom of this slide also, and it's in the guidance for homeowners document. You're going to click on the hourglass that's up in this upper corner and type in your address, and that will help you, that will take you to a spot on the map. And if you are, once it zooms to your property, if the screen is either pink or brown, you're within the eligible area. If the background is white, you are not in an eligible area for funding. So once we've received all of the applications in early June, because they're going to be postmarked by May 31st, We will review them for completeness and preliminary eligibility. If you have not included something minor in your package, we will provide a short window to provide that information. We'll be corresponding by email, so please be sure to check the email you provided in your application regularly and we recommend that you add our email address as a trusted email so that you receive those email correspondence from us. So this slide includes the list of factors that we will use to prioritize applications. So applications will be ranked based on the status of the well, homeowner income, owner occupancy, and whether the home is within the area prioritized based on highest groundwater declines. The next few slides will talk about each of these prioritization areas. And in the guidance for homeowners document, you will see a table that lists each of the areas and how it will fall within the ranking level. So prioritization area 1 is based on if a well is able or unable to sustain your household currently, or if your work has already been completed just before the work was completed. So for example, if you run out of water when you're taking a shower, or if you can't run your washer and flush the toilet at the same time, if your pump is sucking air after a few minutes of use, those would be areas where your well would be considered dry. If your well is considered at risk of becoming dry, you may be in the priority area and your well is less than 100 feet deep, or your pump may have recently been lowered to within just a couple feet of the bottom of the well. Those are some examples that would show that your well is at risk of going dry. Funding is also prioritized for landowners with low to moderate income households. This is based on the landowner's household income. And on the screen is the chart showing the household size and then the maximum yearly income. You don't have to be within this income level to qualify for funding, but if you are within this income level, you will receive additional priority. Funding will also be prioritized for owner-occupied properties. So like I said, you can have a rental property, but an owner-occupied property will receive additional prioritization. Funding will be prioritized for properties in the areas shown in brown. Again, those are the areas that have the highest levels of groundwater decline, according to recent groundwater studies. So this is what it looks like for the prioritization levels. The top 4 prioritization levels are for those whose households have currently dry wells. I apologize for the size of the font on this slide. I understand it's small. This information is included in the guidance for homeowners document, but because this will be recorded and available as a reference, if someone wants to use it in the future, I wanted to make sure that we included all of the information on the levels within the slideshow. So again, these first floor levels of prioritization are reserved for dry or severely declining wells that do not currently provide enough water for a household. The remaining 8 levels are for wells that are at risk of going dry. Here are levels 5 through 8. And here are levels 9 through 12. So we will provide funding to all of the applications that fall within level 1 and then level 2, and so on until all of the available funds have been awarded. If there are more applications in a level than funding available, we will award based on the date the completed application is received. So we do recommend returning your application packet as soon as it's complete. Don't wait to mail your application until the deadline. And also make sure that your application is complete before you send in your package. And that way we'll make sure you don't have a delay in getting on the priority ranking. After the applications have been ranked by level, grant staff will request an OWRD well inspector complete a pre-award review of your well. They'll complete an on-site inspection, review well logs, and provide an inspection report to grant staff. The grant staff will then approve applications and develop a grant agreement. And grant agreements are our contract with you. They include the funding amount, the expiration date, the work that's been approved, what your budget is, and any match requirements. We'll have a standard grant agreement template that we use for our grants. And if approved for funding, we'll send you that grant agreement for your review and signature. You do need to sign and return your grant agreement to us before your funding is secured. So once you have that secured grant agreement in place, you'll have your work completed. So landowners will have the work done and make payment arrangements with the contractors. You'll have a well drilled or deepened, a pump installed, water connected to the home, so that may include trenching, electrical, or plumbing, and you will have your old well abandoned. Once all the work has been completed, please reach out to OWRD grant staff so we can verify your driller has submitted the appropriate well logs, and we will request your post-inspection. Our well inspector will complete the inspection and submit the report to OWRD grants staff. They'll do an on-site inspection and then also review any well reports. Once that has been completed, we'll send you a response that lets you know the status of the well inspection, and we'll include with that a fund request form for you to return to us. OWRD grants are provided on a reimbursement basis, so we don't provide the money to you up front. You will submit your fund request form with a copy of all of your invoices or receipts. We'll verify that you have met the match requirements, and then we will reimburse you for the portion that is our part of the cost. There is a bit of a delay as we do this process. So you generally have the work done, you pay for the work, you will then have the inspection. That can take a bit to get scheduled, and then it can take up to 30 days for us to do the reimbursement once we receive the fund request. So I have had some people concerned that it would take like a year for reimbursement after you get the documents into us. We're much quicker than that, but it does take some time. Sorry, technical difficulty again. So just to follow up as a reminder, the applications will be due on May 31st. Those are going to be sent to us by USPS. So you'll want to have them postmarked by May 31st. Again, please do have your applications in as you get them ready instead of waiting till the very end. And make sure you include with them any documentation that you need for prioritization. So if you're going to be asking for prioritization based on a low to moderate income household, we ask that you provide that documentation that's requested at the time of application. That information is in the guidance for homeowners document. You'll also include invoices or estimates for all of the work that you'll be having done. So an estimate for the abandonment and the replacement, or an estimate for the repair costs. If you are needing to have trenching or electrical, plumbing work, please also include those estimates in your application packet. So it should include an estimate or itemized invoices if your work has already been completed. And if If you have any questions, please reach out with the email address that we've provided and let us know. Or you can jot your notes down, jot your information on the sign-in sheet that Alexandria had. There's a phone number in the application packet. We want to be available and accessible. So please let us know if there's some way that we can help you or if you have questions. I'm going to stop sharing the slideshow at this point and we'll open it up. Are there any questions in the room?
But it doesn't really indicate where. It shows Harney County, but where am I located at? I have no idea. Where do you live?
So Lisa, there's a question in the room about, the map.
Mhm.
That pink prioritized boundary area.
Uh-huh.
And, because the visual is smaller in the room, so we have a copy of the map right over there as well for physical representation here for folks. As well as we have it online, so if you go to our website.
I have no idea how to do computers.
Okay.
As soon as we're finished, if you would like to check in, we can look up your address for you. Once we're finished for the evening, Alexandria would be happy to help you with that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because I know where you live. I set it up and I'm right on the peak, like right on the wall.
that's why I say when it shows the map, it says pink and brown, but it doesn't indicate those are.
Well, it can.
You're in the pink end.
Yeah.
Not the brown.
Yeah, so if you're in the brown area, it just means you're prioritized.
So I really don't know, so I'm really ignorant.
But they'll
as to
take
what
your
I'm seeing.
address and
Yeah.
they'll know which area.
Yeah, so when we're talking about the NAP, it's for people to recognize, should I apply or not? So it sounds like from folks, what folks are saying in the room, based on where you live, you fall in that prioritized area, right? So, or the area that's eligible, that pink area on the map. So it's to help folks realize, should I take the time to apply or not? Because I'm either in the pink area or not in the pink area. And if you're in a brown area, that just means your application would rank a little higher in the system.
So what I'm getting at though, not knowing, I can recognize the map, but I didn't recognize the areas that are brown and pink.
Yeah,
So you don't have any roads or any indication to tell me where I'm at?
on
I haven't
the
looked at
paper map, not really, but on the map we've got online, it zooms in and it shows you all the boundaries, the county roads. Kelly in the back.
Yeah, I've got an address, but it doesn't show me, when you show me.
Guys, the address is a very, very simple thing, like, if the address, where your address is, I can tell you whether you're on the map. You give your address, they're gonna say it that well.
Yeah. We can easily pull up your address, and find out what it is.
It doesn't say that.
Yes.
That's where
It's on the map.
Okay. I see brown and
It's not the brown.
But I'm looking at
So-
it.
So if you will put your address on a postcard for me, I will
Yeah.
look up your address and we will verify your location.
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what to do or don't, but look at the
So-
map.
It's like
So
South.
if you've got your address and you write it down and you give me your contact information, I will plug it in and I will tell you exactly where
It
you
goes all the way
go,
there.
or you've got
But
one
that
right
doesn't tell
next
me
to
that
you.
in the map.
To the other
I
side.
mean, didn't say it.
Are there any other questions in the room?
I got it.
Yeah, so, there's another person that has a question in the room, so we're gonna pivot, Lisa, then.
Okay.
Alright, so you've got well inspector.
Yes, so the question is, we've gotta have a well inspector. Hey, folks, we're
What
gonna,
is a well?
hey, guys, we've gotta cut the conversations off though, because Lisa's gotta be able to hear folks to answer the question. We've got plenty of time to come through this.
Well, this is.
So, this well inspector. Who is that?
That's John right there. That's why
Oh, that's you.
we've got him in the
Yeah.
room.
So
Raising his
I
hand.
would get in
So-
touch with you, Now, you would apply for the program, submit your application to Lisa. And when you qualify, she reviews your application and does the process, and if you qualify, she will send me an email requesting an inspection. At which point I will reach out to you and tell you when to come to your house and do an inspection.
Oh, okay, well, because I tried this one before, and that was my question. I couldn't find a well inspector. Well, I didn't go all the way, so don't let me.
You could also just ask Dally, and Dally will give you that one.
Oh,
Yeah, so,
well,
and we may have more than one inspector assisting with these well inspections. So you may
Yeah.
see John, or you may see another OWRD well inspector who's
Yeah,
helping
if
us
you
with
have
those
water
inspections.
inspections, it may not be John, but it will be a water resource department well inspector, nonetheless, that's got the knowledge of the area that can come out and come
You
take.
may get better looking.
Yeah, and then we won't necessarily be requesting inspections for everyone who applies for funding. So if you are within one of the prioritized levels and we have funding available, then we would be requesting the inspection.
So what you would normally do is like.
Yeah, John's answering the question.
Reach out to a pump installer, you're having difficulties with your well. And they would come out and be like, you need to lower this on, you need to deepen your well or whatever. At that point, you could reach
Hey,
out
Julie, I'll
and
get you.
apply for this. Or if you want. you can
But you'll be
reach
in
out
the second
directly.
priority. The brown.
well, see, I'm in the brand, and I'm losing a year. And so, but I'm not to the stage where I'm sucking air yet, and it's gonna be there. here.
Yeah, so you would fall in that at risk, and you'll go through the application and you can indicate all of that information, and then once it gets submitted to Lisa, she can get the ball rolling with, John. Julie, you had a question. You patiently had your hand raised.
So, multiple questions.
Okay,
I noticed that this window to apply is quite short. And so I assume that this money is aimed for wells that have already demonstrated harm. Or we know that the pump is at the bottom. But given the fact that we know that this declining water table in the Harney Basin is all interconnected, there's a long-term potential as water moves around, because it tries to, establish equilibrium. Even if we stop the decline tomorrow, there are other wells, exempt wells, out there today who are gonna go dry. Because eventually we'll fill in all those big sinkholes and all that sort of thing, and the water levels will change. So, number one question, was this funding set up on an annual basis, or is this a one-time thing with a deadline of May 31st? And if so, that doesn't acknowledge the reality of what we know about water levels in the Harney Basin. And there's no guarantee, as you were in the meeting earlier today, there's no guarantee that we're going to achieve stopping the decline anytime in the very near future.
so Julie, we'll get to that first one. Lisa, do you wanna tackle
Sure.
that one?
Sure. So the funding that we currently have available is $500,000 that was provided by the Oregon legislature. We anticipate funding as many wells as we receive applications for until we hit that 500,000. So if there is more applications than funding, then we won't be able to fund all of the wells. If there are not more applications than funding, then whatever is left of that 500,000, we will use for a future funding cycle. The funding is provided by the legislature, and they did give us a limited amount. So in order for us to receive more funding, there would have to be additional funds provided by the legislature. So at this point, the funding that we have available, we will spend, hopefully we'll be able to help with 35 to 40 wells, and we will assist all of them that we can at this point. We don't have any future guarantee of funding. So we are currently going with what we have available and trying to fund and help with as many wells as possible.
And Lisa, if I can follow up on that for Julie, so this was, as we mentioned in an earlier meeting, so in our Division 512 RAC meeting earlier, Lisa, we had a presentation from the Harney Community-Based Water Planning Collaborative. They mentioned this was a strategy proposed in the groundwater portion of their plan. They happened to have a legislator that went to the legislation and asked for the funding. It was identified as a need for the community. So by prioritizing funding these 35 to 40 wells and expending these funds, you know, then there's the ability to go back to the legislature if it is proving to be even more of a need, as we might see and as we heard today, groundwater level declines are going to continue if action isn't taken. That need might become more apparent. Well, then that's, you know, the community needs to be able to highlight the need, and if the funds are still sitting there because no one in the community is taking advantage of it, it makes it more difficult to go back to the legislature. So we're really trying to push right now in our outreach efforts to try to get people in this first cycle, recognizing that it also takes time to get the work done. Drillers are very busy, folks are really busy, it's a big cost up front. And so we want to try to give people as much time as possible and try to really prioritize getting that funding out right now and getting people on board. But by no means is that if the funds aren't expended, we won't do another cycle. We can, but we want to get folks on board now, recognizing that it's going to take time and the issues can continue to compile as action isn't taken.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I'd like to just check in online. We do have a few people online with us still. Did anyone who is online, if you have a question, please unmute your microphone and we'd be happy to take your questions also.
No questions online from Brianna or Melissa?
Okay, let's return to the room then. Alexandria, do you have any additional questions there?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a question, like on the guidance for homeowners page, there's a question answer page. It says, do I have to permanently abandon the affected well? And then down below, because we did replace, or we deepened our current well. It still didn't like solve our problem really. I mean, you can't do laundry and irrigate the yard, you know, or brush your teeth or anything while the washing machine's going. But so it says in here, you can, in some cases, the replacement well is unable to supply sufficient water for drinking, culinary, blah, blah. The well owner may have the option to use both the original affected well and the replacement well. So
yeah, so in your case where you have had a well that was recently deepened, they wouldn't have been able to deepen it if it didn't meet the current construction standards. So a well that meets current construction standards, we would like you to, in your application packet, write a note that says, I would like to keep my existing well. It's been deepened. If you have a well log from the deepening or a well report, please include that with your application package, and we will evaluate that when we do your application review. If your well meets current construction standards, it is likely that you would be able to keep your well, the old well, and be able to not do the abandonment. Unfortunately, many wells in the community don't have a well log, so we're not able to tell if the well meets current construction standards or the well is insufficient. It doesn't meet the standard and they're unsafe for a drill rig to deepen it. So in your case, your well was able to be deepened. In many cases, they cannot. So if it doesn't meet that standard, if they're unsafe, we don't want to leave a well on the landscape that puts your new well or the groundwater at risk of contamination. So wells that don't meet current construction standards or that we can't find documentation that shows it meets current standards, those we will require abandonment. It sounds like probably in your case, you have a well log that would show that it meets those standards, and we'll evaluate it, but it likely would not require you to do the abandonment.
Okay, so you could tie two together, basically.
I didn't understand what you said. I'm sorry. I didn't catch that.
There's a scenario where we wouldn't have to abandon our existing, we could tie two together if we found water in a certain spot.
Yeah, so just like I said, just include a note in your application that that's how you would like to proceed, and we're happy to review the application that way.
So,
Any other
Anybody
questions
else?
in the room?
And if not, like we said, you guys are more than welcome to follow up with Lisa, and she's happy to answer questions. We've provided a phone number, we've provided an email. If you like to use the internet or you like to use your computer, we also have those online, and we have a webpage that goes through a lot of the stuff that Lisa's covered tonight. The recording of this will be made available in a couple days, so if you want to rewatch it again, or you have friends, family members that you think would be interested in the information, feel free to share it. We will leave printed copies of the application with the local water master, Dowie. So if you need to pick up a copy of the application, you're welcome to reach out to him and pick up a copy. Lisa also said that you can send her a message or call her, she'll mail one to you. So we want to make sure that we're meeting people where they are and recognizing that there's barriers sometimes, and we don't want access to internet or ability to use a printer to get in folks' way of applying for this funding. So feel free to ask.
We also would recommend that when you pick up your application that you go through it. Don't wait till the last minute. There is a package for you to submit with it. So it may take you a little while to get an estimate from a driller or an estimate for your pump. So we do encourage you to be filling out those applications sooner than later.
And Lisa, in the guidance for homeowners document or on our website, we include a list of drillers, correct? Or finding.
There is a website available, and on the last page of the guidance for homeowners document, there's a link where you can click to find a driller. If you don't have internet access or if you need help with that, again, please reach out and I'm happy to help guide you to the names and contact information for some drillers in your area.
We've got another question in the room.
Okay, how can I help?
Really a question. I just want to introduce myself. I think Lisa and I have met before, but I'm Rhonda Nyseth with Oregon Department of Human Services, Office of Resilience and Emergency Management. That's a lot to say. And I'm a social service emergency liaison for DHS. My role is our agency provides assistance to disaster survivors, and drought is a disaster. And I come from the Klamath Basin where we've had our own drought disaster, and I've had my own dry well. So I've lived through this myself. And we have a program where we assist homeowners with water tanks and water delivery. And we're starting disaster case management for folks that are struggling to get through the process of getting their wells re-drilled. And I used to have a staff member that helped with a lot of the WARF applications in the Klamath Basin for homeowners that were struggling to get their wells drilled. So we're here today just to kind of gauge needs and talk to folks and see who might need some little additional assistance to get through this. I brought my business cards, but I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm very well known in the Klamath Basin for the dry wells because we have a lot of them. But I'm here today just to start that olive branch in those conversations for folks that need it. Hopefully this doesn't get as big as the Klamath Basin's water crisis, but you know, we all need water, so.
And I really appreciate with Rhonda, the other thing is if it's not an area that she specifically works in, she's been really good at helping connect us with someone in your local area who can help with the needs that we have. So we've worked on Deschutes County area, we've worked on Klamath County area. So I appreciate that you were able to join us, Rhonda. I was watching for your name to show up online, so I am glad to see that you were able to meet in the room.
Thanks, Lisa. It's good to see you.
Thanks.
It is, and Kearney is my county. I work in Klamath Lake, Kearney and Grant, so you will see me again, so.
So I guess, like the scenario that we have, we have 150 feet deep, 150 foot deep well. It was drilled in 2014. We started second air last year. Our pump was set at 80 feet. We started sucking air with it last year, so we hired SureTap out of Burns here, a local well driller. He come in, had pulled our pump. He had to set his well rig over our well because it's sanded in under the pump. We couldn't get the pump any deeper. So he ended up cleaning the well back down to 150 feet, installed sand screen, new pump, all that stuff. And he ended up setting the pump, I believe, at 140 feet, so clear at the bottom of the well. Do you think that would qualify?
So are you asking for new work to be done? Is your well currently functioning now? Or are you needing, are you asking if we can reimburse you for the work that's already been done? Or are you needing more work done?
Three is when we did the work, paid for it, paid the bills, paid everything.
I missed the very beginning of that sentence.
So essentially, they had the work done last year, and they're just asking if they're eligible to, if they include all of the invoices for the work, is
Yeah.
that something that they could be reimbursed for?
So it sounds like it's something that could potentially be eligible. We'd need to take a look at the well logs and do the pre-award inspection and get the application in. I would encourage you to apply for the funding. Please include your invoices that you got from Jay and any documentation that he gave you as far as I'm assuming he probably um, gave you a well log, but he may not have, depending on what work was done. And then also include any any proof that you have when you submit your application. But please do apply. It does sound like something that could be eligible.
Anybody else have any questions in the room?
Well, getting a well driller is challenging. Sometimes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we recognize that, and Lisa has encountered that as well with the statewide well fund, so there is ability there.
Yeah, and we do recognize that it does take some time to get your well drilled or to get on the list for work. So we do give the grant plenty of time. So I generally write grants for at least a year so that you have plenty of time to get the work done. We don't want you to be without water for that long, but we do recognize that it takes time for you to be able to get the work done.
So in the meantime, can you have it done and keep your records and get reimbursed?
You could. We can't guarantee that you would qualify for the funding. And so
If you qualify.
I would hate for you to be assuming that you would get funding reimbursement and then not receive the funding and
Well, the
have
thing is,
paid out of pocket.
has to be done or run out of water. And
Yeah,
the
yeah,
possibility is possible.
So you are welcome to get the work done. I think what Lisa is saying is you still have to apply for the funding, and because we have to prioritize applications as they come in. That's why there's that deadline there, and we've got to look at how many we get. And if, like Lisa said before, if we come up with less applications than we have funding for, then great, we can fund all of the applications that are eligible. If we've got more applications than we have funding for, that's when those criteria that she talked about, your income, are you in one of those brown areas or the pink area? that's when those start to come into play. So I think what Lisa is cautioning is going in and assuming that you're gonna be eligible for the fund without putting in the application and actually hearing from grant fund staff. That's not advised. It's kind of, that would be a do at your own risk. But if you look at the eligibility requirements, you submit your application, you hear from the grant fund staff saying, yes, you are eligible for funding based on the estimates that you put in, then that's when you would want to schedule, that work to be done. So it's, Lisa, am I characterizing that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. So you could be eligible for reimbursement, but if you don't fall, if someone higher on the priority list falls above you and we run out of funding, then we would not be able to reimburse.
There's definitely no reason why you couldn't call a well driller today and schedule something for
Well,
like June or July.
I've been talking to Welder about mine and,
So
here,
there's just conversation.
I gotta.
I just want to check,
Well,
before we break off, are there any other questions for Lisa? And if not, I will end the virtual portion of this meeting and we can answer any other smaller questions. But are there any other questions for Lisa as the well fund specialist?
And I just want to confirm that we were able to confirm for the one gentleman where he fell within the mapping. Was someone able in the room able to tell him if he falls in pink or brown?
Yes. Yeah, he's in the gift gap, Lisa. He's
Okay,
in the pink.
excellent. Thank you.
And, I don't know if you want to hit, stop record on the meeting.
So I will stop recording and I can